Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's form building webinar. My name is Nick, and I'll be taking us through the builder today. Today's topic is going to be on advanced calculations, and much like our previous webinar, we will be going over how to utilize that calculation tool in multiple instances. So let's go ahead and go on down to our packets and forms page. And just as a reminder, if you have any questions as we go along today, I will be opening up that chat towards the a little bit closer to the end of the webinar. I'll be more than happy to go back over any information or answer any questions that you might have. But today we'll be working off of our FormDr training packet. So we'll go ahead and click the three dots on the right side of that packet and click Edit Forms, which will take us into our builder. Well, we can get rid of any of the tabs that we don't need. We'll just be working off of our calculation tool today. All right. So we'll go next to build. We have what we had been working on in our previous webinar. And as it currently stands, we have our rating scale set with our question name shortcodes. We have our rate values set so that when the answer is selected, it will populate into that score. And we had also set up two selection option questions, one being a single select option, and then we had also put down a drop down as well. Any element that is on the left sidebar that will have a value section in the answer field area will be able to be used with the calculation tool. You can even use that with text fields as well. You'll just need to update that field name or use that field name in the calculation. But let's do a quick refresher on these, and we'll just take a look at what we're doing here. So we'll go ahead and first take a look at our first calculation tool, which we had set up previously, and we can see that the calculation expression area is giving us Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3, all in brackets. And it's very important that the short codes are entered into brackets in the calculation expression. If we copy and paste that real quick and we remove that, you can see the placeholder information will give you an example of what to do in this field. And this will be the field name shortcodes that can be found when you open up an element. So for instance, the value field over here, if we were to add a third option, that value again is going to be the number that is calculated, but the short code in the name field, those random collections of letters, that is going to be what you're looking for when placing those into the brackets. So for instance, our score here is just grabbing Q1, Q2, and Q3. These are going to be the short codes for questions 1, 2, and 3 on our rating scale. So you can see the question name here. If we were to add another one, we would get a randomized collection of letters that is not being used anywhere else in the form. That is simply to prevent any unwanted auto-population from happening. And it's very important to note that once you have used a shortcode, if you do decide to change it from this randomized collection of letters to something different, once it has been used once, it won't be able to be used again unless you want that information to be auto-filled. So using Q1, Q2, and Q3 for this rating scale, we will not be able to use those shortcodes for any other questions. Otherwise, when one of those answers is selected, the other one will be selected as well because they share that same shortcode. All right, let's go ahead and go. We'll start ourselves a brand new tab here so we can have some fresh stuff. Okay, we've added a scratch tab. And now we have a blank area. So we'll go ahead and build out a couple more of these just to go through the process of building the calculation and then using that calculation tool. And then we will add a few more of those and then ultimately having multiple calculation tools output into a new calculation as well. So you will be able to calculate the output of a calculation tool. It obviously won't be calculated until that one has been calculated. So in the case of this situation, if this second score was going to use the first score, then all three of these questions will need to be answered prior to that because it will be looking for the calculation to be output from that. But the calculation tool was intended to be used with that rating scale, so we'll place another one down and we'll just go through the process of building out what we had built before, just so we can do this from scratch today. All right, so we'll add our rating scale, we'll add a calculation, then we'll add another rating scale, and another calculation. And then we'll add a section of a couple of yes or no questions. We can do 3 here and another calculation. All right. And then once we have all of this set up, we'll go back in and we'll calculate those calculated scores to get our final score. So first up, what we'll need to do is we can go ahead and just open up that first calculation. We can see how that's going to look by default. We'll have nothing in our calculation expression area, and we will just need to add in those short codes for those question field names. So to do that, I always like to just put down the amount of brackets and the calculation expressions in there prior to putting in the short codes, because then you just can copy and paste them in. So for the purposes of this, we'll have this first rating scale add up the sum of our first 3 questions. So we'll just place 3 sets of brackets down separated by plus signs. All right. And now our calculation is set up. We just need to fill in the blanks here and add our short codes. So again, these will randomize when they're generated so that there is no unwanted auto-population. So we can just copy and paste those over. You don't have to change them. I often recommend changing them just to make it easier for you if you are going to have a lot of questions being calculated, because if you ever do need to go update that calculation for any reason, as you can imagine, it can get a little cluttered in here and hard to see exactly which one you're needing to update. If instead these were, Q1, Q2, Q3, or whatever the case may be, A1, A2, A3, those can be a lot easier to find when you have to open up that calculation. However, just in the interest of doing this from the default position, I'm going to go ahead and use those shortcodes today. And we'll only be calculating a few questions at a time, so it shouldn't get too crazy in here anyway. All right, so we have our calculation tool set up. This is all ready to go now. Our calculation expression has been filled out. We have the correct math in here. And as long as your math is correct, the calculation tool will calculate that whatever formula you have in there. But now we need to set up our rating scale to be calculated into this widget. So we're going to go ahead and open up our rating scale widget by clicking the 3 dots on the left side of that. And from here, we can update the title if we want to title this something else. Maybe this is a PHQ-9 or something like that. I don't know. You can update that title there if you like. And then you'll have the name field for the rating scale itself. While it is a randomized collection of letters, you will be doing each question individually. The way that the rating scale will work with the calculation, you'll want to grab the specific shortcodes for each one of those questions. And again, each question that we add will add a brand new shortcode, but we'll just leave it at these 3 questions for now. It will also default to the satisfied and unsatisfied ratings type. So we'll have our answer choices up here, very unsatisfied all the way up to very satisfied as a default answer selection section. But if we wanted to change that, we do have a few other presets for you: agree to disagree, 1 to 5, good and poor. But if you're going to be using the rating scale with the calculation tool, you will want to use that custom option. That custom option will open up the custom ratings at the bottom, and now we can adjust how many answer selections we have, what they say, and what their values will be. Just for the simplicity of this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and remove the end options there, so we only have to worry about 3 options. But we'll then be able to set the rate value, which is the numbers that's going to be calculated based off of their selection. So we'll leave bad at 0, we'll turn average to good, or excuse me, average to 1 and good to 2. So now when the patient selects good, that answer selection will be worth 2 points or 2 of that value. All right, so this is all set up and ready to go. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. We'll double check everything is correct. We'll make sure that those shortcodes have been copied and pasted over. These are going to be case sensitive, so I always recommend to just copy those and ensure that there's not a space on the front or the tail end of that. but we can make sure that those shortcodes are matching, our calculation expression is correct, and we're ready to test that out. Let's go ahead and go to the style page, because the style page is a live version of the form. So if you have, or a live preview anyway, I should say. So if you have any required fields that you click past, you will be notified with the red outline over the fields that need to be completed. And that red required tag will pop up for you as well. If you do have any conditional information, which we don't have set up on this, that will also display for you. However, the calculation tool will need to be on a live version of the form. As you can see, we've selected all 3 good options, so this should be displaying 6, but it is displaying 0. So let's go ahead and save those changes by clicking through the builder, going back to my account, and then we can go back to the Packets and Forms page and open up that public link of the form. Now when we go to our calculation and we test that out, we can see that we're getting the sum of those 3 questions. All right, so let's go ahead and go back to our form, edit form, and next to build. Go back over to our new tab and we'll set up our second area. We'll do this one very quickly as well. We'll give them a little bit more value. And so we'll just grab our shortcodes. And maybe this time we'll do multiplication. You will want to use the symbols on your number pad if you have one. Otherwise, for multiplication, you want to use that asterisk. For division, you're going to want to use that /. But we'll just multiply the first 2, and then maybe this one will subtract the last one. Let's get kind of a little weird with it. But let's go ahead and place our shortcodes now. That's our first one, our second one, and our third. Our second calculation tool is now set up, but we do need to go back into that rating scale and change that ratings to the custom area. Maybe we'll leave this one with 5 answer selections, and we'll just go 0, 1 through 5, or 0, 1 through 4, excuse me. We'll click done to lock that in. And then while we're here, let's go ahead and set up the third section as well, just so we don't have to keep publishing and coming back, publishing and coming back. But I want to bring this section up as well. We'll add a drop down in there. Maybe we'll remove this last single select option. But as mentioned earlier, any widget with a value section can be used with the calculation tool. Again, you're just going to want to use the randomized shortcode of letters, but you will want to set the value of that selection here as well. So maybe 1 for yes and 0 for no, and we'll do the same for these as well. All right, and then very much the same, we can place our brackets down. And we'll just make it simple on this one too, just to sum those up. We'll go select our shortcodes, place them into the brackets. All right. So now all 3 of our calculation tools have been set up correctly. Our values have been set, our shortcodes have been placed, and we're going to double check that math to make sure that it is correct so that the calculation tool can do its thing. And just as one very strong reminder, always, always, always double check to make sure that you are using brackets, because you don't want to accidentally put in a parentheses or something like that on one end of those shortcodes, because then it's not going to function properly. It will need those brackets to tell the system that this is something that needs to be pulled from another element. All right, so all 3 of our calculation tools have been set up. Let's go ahead and add a final calculation so that we can calculate the output of all 3 of these. All right, so we'll go ahead and place one last calculation, and to differentiate this, much like on the first page, we'll just title that total score in all caps. And then now, very much like the other calculation tools, we're just going to need, or just like the other calculations that we've created, we're just going to need to go into the calculation tools themselves and grab their shortcodes to calculate. I will go ahead and change these just to show you that we can absolutely change these to something else, function the exact same way, but I'll just title this Calc 1, and then we'll do Calc 2 and Calc 3. Okay, so all of our calculation tools are set up correctly. We've renamed their shortcodes so that we can remember those. And now let's just go in to our total score here. And what we'll do is we will just get the average of these. So we will place these down. And I'm going to go ahead and place those into a set of parentheses so that we can get the sum of that. And then we'll divide that by 3 to get that average. So we'll put in our Calc 1, our Calc 2, and our Calc 3 divided by 3, and we will be good to go. Again, we'll go next to Style, next to Publish, and back to Account. We can go back to that Packets and Forms page and click that public link of the form again to take us to the live form where we can test out that calculation. So as we go through and we start to select all of our forms or all of our answers, we can then get our final score. I threw myself for a loop with my calculation in the second one, but we can see that this will output whatever we have set up. So we currently are adding our 3 calculations, dividing them by 3. But again, that calculation is currently in a set of parentheses. So in situations like that, if you do have an advanced calculation or something crazy that you're looking at trying to get to be calculated, you can use those brackets, those parentheses, and those will just, in the mathematical way, we'll keep all of these to be calculated first. So you absolutely can use those parentheses. Just note that if your calculation has brackets within it, I always recommend just making a separate calculation tool to calculate whatever is supposed to happen in those brackets, because if you use the brackets in that calculation expression, the system will read that again as something that needs to be pulled from another element. It's going to read whatever information is within that as a shortcode that needs to be used in some form or fashion. So, if you have parentheses set up like this, where you have different stages of a calculation going, you can absolutely do that. But again, if there are brackets, I always just recommend making a second calculation tool for the bracketed information and then outputting that calculation tool's shortcode into the section where the bracket would be for that calculation. All right, I know that this can be confusing. That chat is now open. If you do have any questions, I'm happy to get to those before we close up today. All right. Oh, question. Yes. So the question was asking if we could show how it's used with the text fields as well. So we can go ahead and just add a couple text fields onto the form. And what we're going to want to do is just use that field name. So maybe this is a score 0 to 10 or something like that. Add another calculation. We'll do first one minus the second one. And then maybe this is score 1 to 5 or something. Okay. Alrighty, we'll go back on through and save that. And we can go and enter our new information. So maybe this is 9 minus 5. All right. Now, of course, if you leave it on the text option and they start to write something different other than the number, then it won't calculate properly. So in those situations, I do recommend for the text fields that you go in and we'll open that text field up for editing by hovering and clicking the orange pencil icon. And then I recommend changing the format to number. This will not allow them to enter any text information into that input. They'll only be able to enter actual numbers, and that can help you ensure that you're getting the correct information if you are going to be using the text fields for the calculation tool. Of course. All right. And again, if you do need to go in and update any of those calculations, maybe there's something that's not calculating properly, or maybe one of the short codes has been entered incorrectly, it can be updated just like any other element. We're just going to hover over that calculation, open that up, and then from here, we'll be able to go in and find that specific short code that needs to be updated, or maybe this was supposed to be added instead of multiplied, whatever the case may be. Just make sure to double check everything if you are changing things around, just in case some bracket gets changed to a parentheses or something like that. All right. And don't get discouraged on the style page if it's not going to display for you until that form has been pushed live. It's just how that widget will work in the system, but you can always just go to the most recent live version of the form by clicking on Packets and Forms and clicking that public link. This link will never change, so you can use this if you are sending the form out via third party or something like that. And no matter how many times you update this form, this link will never change. It will always link to the most recently published version of the form. So this will obviously take us to our calculation, and we can get back in there and update that. All right. Okay, well, it does not look like we have any other questions today, so that will conclude today's webinar on the calculation tool. However, we will be doing another video on this as well, as it's one of our more requested videos, just because it can be a little confusing at first, but once you get the hang of it and you understand how to use those shortcodes, you can get really creative with that calculation tool. And it's a very powerful tool. As long as your math is correct, it will properly calculate that for you. And just as a reminder, we host these form building webinars every Tuesday and Thursday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific. You can keep up with the schedule of those by going to My Account, Support, and Search Guide. Once you are taken to our product guide, which will have many articles to answer most of any questions that we have received. So please check out the articles. We'll have some imagery and some step-by-step instructions to help get you squared away with whatever you're looking to do in there. But the FormDr update section down here at the bottom right, we'll have our webinar schedule, and you'll be able to sign up for webinars just by clicking on that specific day. Our form building webinar will change from day to day in terms of the topic that we'll be going over. So if there is anything that you're interested in joining us for, please feel free to come here and sign up for that. However, if you are unable to attend for the day that you are interested in, we will be posting the recordings of those videos after the fact as well. So please just check back to this page and we will have that posted for you. Once it has been posted, you'll just need to click that posted click here link. It will take you directly to our YouTube channel, and we'll have some timestamps on that video for you as well, just letting you know what we'll be going over during those moments. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we host onboarding webinars. Information can be found up here at the top of this page. The onboardings won't change too much. We will dive a little more deeply on Wednesdays for these webinars into the new features such as the synced forms, documents, and customizable plans. Again, those will be focused on Wednesdays, and the Mondays and Friday onboarding webinars will still be onboarding information, managing users, updating forms, sending forms to patients, and things like that. You can also sign up for those here as well, and we will be having that June schedule posted here very soon as well. If you are interested in going back through our previous months, for our form building webinars in February, those were all about adding new forms to accounts. March, we went through all of the widgets in the builder. I do find the March webinars to be very helpful for people that are just getting started in the builder and learning how to use it, because we go through all of the widgets, how to use them and what they can do. And then April and May have been all about updating and editing existing forms in your account. So please feel free to go back through those and catch any of those previously recorded videos. But again, that will conclude us for today. Thank you very much for joining us today. If you do have any coworkers or staff that you would like to learn this information, or if they are interested in learning, please feel free to send them our way. These are all free, and we do encourage everyone to join as often as they like until they're comfortable with the product and beyond as well. But thank you very much. Have a great afternoon, and hope to see you all again very soon.